With free agency less than a month away, it's time to take a look at who is available at key positions for the Buffalo Bills and who they might be going after. Welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this free agency preview edition of Billievers Talk, where we take a look at the positions of need for the Buffalo Bills and where they look to go to fill those needs, and will they look at some of these free agents we're about to talk about. Again, guys, thank you for joining me on Billievers Talk. My name is Joe. If you are new to this channel and you like Buffalo sports, especially the Buffalo Bills, you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button for all your Buffalo Bills news. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell. Notifies you when we put out new content as we continue to look at our preview free agency, which is coming up March 18th. That's right, guys. March 18th is the start of the new league year, and it looks like we're getting closer and closer to a new CBA getting signed, possibly already signed by the time this video is released, so that's exciting. But let's take a look now at free agency, okay? Again, free agency started March 18th at 4 p.m. That's when all the contracts that ran out in 2019 are fulfilled, and everyone is then unrestricted free agent who had a contract that ran out in 2019. A lot of big names on that list, but first I want to talk about some of the big Bills needs, right? We need to know what the Bills position needs are before we look at these positions. We all know about the free agency quarterback class that's coming out this year, Brady, Rivers, and all of them, but the Bills don't need a quarterback. We're hoping, and we like the idea that we have our franchise quarterback in Josh Allen. I hope that's true, and we absolutely still have him on his rookie contract, so there's no reason to think that we should go away from Josh Allen anytime soon. We saw the improvement from 2018 to 2019. Hope for that continued improvement, that continued rise in 2020. So what are the Bills' biggest position needs? I know a lot of people, a lot of Bills fans are screaming wide receiver, but if you followed this channel before, you know that I personally do not think that wide receiver is our number one need this offseason. I do believe it's a need, probably second or third on my list, but my number one need for this Buffalo Bills team is defensive end. I personally think that games are won and lost at the offensive and defensive line of scrimmage. With Shaq Lawson becoming a free agent this season, we'll talk about him in this video, that really leaves us thin at that defensive end position, especially a defensive end position that we know Coach McDermott, we know Leslie Frazier like to rotate players in and out, right? And we saw that this past season, the 2019 season, there were times where the Bills had problems getting pressure on the quarterback. Jordan Phillips, our defensive tackle, led the team in sacks with 9.5. Jordan Phillips had a great year, guys. I'm not going to debate that at all, but you have to think that you want your defensive ends leading the way when it comes to sacks. You want those edge rushers getting more pressure on the quarterback. And one of the examples I often use is think about that first game against New England in week 4 compared to that second game against New England in week 16. Tale of two different games. Tom Brady had one of the worst games of his career in week 4, and we constantly kept getting pressure on him, got pressure on him all the time. Week 16, not the same story. Week 16, the exact opposite. Couldn't get any pressure on Tom Brady, and he tore us apart. He had one of his best games of the season. So that is what I'm talking about. I want more consistency out of my defensive ends. So let's take a look at some of the free agents at defensive end and see who might be coming to Buffalo. And guys, if you look down the list of free agent defensive ends, it's an impressive list, okay? And most of you will be drawn to one name, and I've said that name a lot on this channel. That's Ngakoue, defensive end from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it does look like there is a potential that the Jaguars use that franchise tag on Yannick Ngakoue, but you never know what's going to happen, right? Franchise tag tenure starts next week, so anything can happen. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But if he is available in free agent, is that the type of guy the Buffalo Bills go after? If you're looking for consistency and a young guy, I think he's 26 years of age, to constantly get pressure on a guy like a Tom Brady, who might not even be in our division next year. Maybe you're talking about Sam Darnold, the younger quarterbacks coming up Tua Tagovailoa, if that's who the Dolphins get. If you want a guy who's going to get consistent pressure, you gotta like Yannick Ngakoue, right? You gotta like his age, you gotta like his skill set, you gotta like how he performed for the Jacksonville Jaguars, even when he was the main focus this past season. So obviously Yannick Ngakoue is high on a lot of people's lists, but that probably means that he's high on a lot of teams' lists as well, right? If Yannick Ngakoue becomes a free agent, which I'm not sure he's going to, but if he becomes a free agent, you better believe there is going to be a bidding war for Yannick Ngakoue. And if there's one thing that Brandon Beane has shown us as he's run front office, he's not afraid to get into a bidding war, but he's not going to negotiate what price he has set for a player. He just proved that again with the Greg Olsen situation. Greg Olsen signing with Seattle for more money than he probably thought Greg Olsen, and a lot of people in Bills Mafia thought Greg Olsen was worth. So you look at Yannick Ngakoue, great player. I'm not saying he's not. Would love to see him in a Bills uniform, but we all know that Brandon Beane has a price in mind for Yannick Ngakoue, and he's not willing to go above that price. I think there are teams that are willing to go above and beyond that price to get a talent like a Yannick Ngakoue into their team, into their facility. And so I think we might lose out on any Ngakoue's sweepstakes, if you will, if there is one. I just feel like there are teams that are going to overpay for him, and I don't want the Bills and Brandon Beane to fall for that trap. I like him. I think he's a great young player, but I think that we could maybe even pick up an older defensive end and still pick up a draft a younger defensive end who might be able to make a difference. Now, whether that be in the first round or in day 2 or day 3, I'm not sure. But I think that that's something that the Buffalo Bills and Brandon Beane want to look into. So as far as Yannick Ngakoue goes, would love to see him on the Buffalo Bills team. I just don't see it happening. Again, guys, make sure you let me know what you think about Yannick Ngakoue. Do you think the Buffalo Bills have a chance to sign him? Let me know in the comment section, guys. While you're at it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let me know you appreciate this video. Let me know that you want more free agency preview content, because we could do one. I'm going to do one for all of the positions of need for the Buffalo Bills, including wide receiver, which I plan to have out late or early next week. So make sure you're looking out for that. Then you look down this defensive end list. Then you say, okay, if it's not Yannick Ngakoue, who is it going to be? Is it going to be a big splash name like a Jadeveon Clowney, like a Ndamukong Suh, or are we going to go a little small ball here? Are we going to go with a little Robert Quinn, someone of that nature who very few have heard of, but can still definitely make a splash? So I went over a couple of names. Let me go over a couple more for you. Again, Jadeveon Clowney is available, 27 years old, got traded to Seattle last season, so that might be a potential spot where he stays in Seattle. They're looking at about $20 million per season as far as market value on SpotTrack.com for a talent like Jadeveon Clowney. I personally don't think he's worth that much money. I really don't think he's worth $20 million. We've seen him have high highs. We've seen him have low lows, both with Houston and Seattle now. So that's someone that I'd be very cautious of. Let me know what you think about Jadeveon Clowney. I said Ndamukong Suh's name. I want to stay as far away from Ndamukong Suh as possible. I just am not a fan of a lot of the trouble that he gets into, that he's gotten into in the past. Not necessarily the off-field, the on-field issues that lead to suspensions, fines, and just give everyone in the locker room a bad look. Not a great locker room presence, not a McDermott type guy to bring in that culture that McDermott is looking for. Now, is he the type of guy that can come in and make his presence felt, and does McDermott feel like there's enough culture in that locker room that can really change his attitude? Maybe, and if that's the way he wants to look at it, that's fine. He'll talk to Brandon Beane, say, no, this guy can come in here. If we give him at the right price, because he is a little older, sitting there at 33 years old, right? Age is catching up to him now. He can make a difference, and he's one of those veteran guys who I talked about, older guys, bring in a young guy, and maybe that's someone that can mentor the young kid. But is Ndamukong Suh the guy you want mentoring your young draft picks? I personally don't think so. Ezekiel Ansah, a lot of people were talking about him last season in free agency, signed a 1-year contract, previously with Detroit, then with Seattle last season. He has had a lot of injuries in his career. Is that someone we want to roll the dice on? Gerald McCoy, older defensive end, 32 years old, with Carolina last season. Another big name that a lot of people know. Do we want to look at Gerald McCoy and say, hey, come in here? That's the type of veteran leadership we're talking about. Gerald McCoy has been there before, made $8 million last year. You're talking about market value in the $6 million per year range for him. I think that's good value there for a Gerald McCoy. Look at Vic Beasley. A lot of Bills fans talking about Vic Beasley. They like Vic Beasley, what he can bring to this team. Again, a younger defensive end, just 27 years of age, sitting on his 5th year, going into his 6th year. And you're talking about a guy that's a lot cheaper too. You look at Spot Track having his market value at $7.3 million per season. So you're not talking about that $20 million price tag that you got out of Jadeveon Clowney. Probably even a little bit more for a guy like Ngakoue. So you look at a guy like Vic Beasley, you look at that $7.3 million price tag, you say that's doable. A guy that can come in, make an immediate impact, maybe make Shaq Lawson a little bit more flexible as far as how you handle the Shaq Lawson deal, right? Because Shaq Lawson's going to go after his money. Shaq Lawson had a pretty good season for the Buffalo Bills last year. He's going to want to get paid. But again, we know Brandon Beane. We know what he sets the bar. He says, this is what you're worth. He doesn't go away from that. So well that fit into Shaq Lawson's range. I like Shaq Lawson. I don't mind to see him come back. But Shaq Lawson, he has the same issues as some of these other players have. You've seen him with high of highs. You also see him with some pretty low lows with his career so far with the Buffalo Bills. So you wonder if that's a guy that Brandon Beane plans to bring back. I personally don't think that the Buffalo Bills plan on bringing Shaq Lawson back. And I think that for some reasons, one of my main reasons for that is because normally when and this is just from observation for myself, I didn't look into this, but if you don't sign that 5th year option on a draft pick, a lot of times they go somewhere else. Now, I'm not saying that has to happen, right? He could still sign with the Buffalo Bills, but he wanted that contract extension last season. If the Buffalo Bills were not willing to give him that contract extension, there's no reason for him to not want to move on. It's kind of like how some players work, especially Kirk Cousins, with the franchise tag. They take the franchise tag as an insult that you're just not comfortable paying them long term, and so when that franchise tag is up, whether it be the 1st year or the 2nd year, they move on to a different team. So that's how I look at this situation here with a guy like Shaq Lawson. Again, had a decent year for the Buffalo Bills last year, but with everybody in that defense, I always wonder, is it scheme or is it the player's ability? Because Shaq Lawson did not show too much in his first couple seasons with the Buffalo Bills. Now the 2nd, 3rd season in the league with defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier, all of a sudden he looks a little bit better. So was it a scheme thing? I've asked the same thing about Jordan Phillips at the defensive tackle position. Was it a scheme thing or was it a player thing? And in this instance, I think it's a scheme thing. I think Vic Beasley is the type of guy that would fit that scheme very well and give us even more production. So if you talk about having a Jerry Hughes, if you're talking about having a Trent Murphy, then you add this guy, a Vic Beasley from previously from Atlanta, I think that would make for a very pungent rotation there. And then you bring in a defensive end, maybe another free agent, maybe you keep Shaq Lawson and still sign a Vic Beasley. I think that's a good place to go. So if the Buffalo Bills are looking to go defensive end in free agency, which there's no telling if they will. Maybe they'll re-sign Shaq Lawson, and then they'll pick up a younger defensive end in the draft. Some good defensive ends out there in the NFL draft, so I wouldn't be completely surprised if in free agency they overlook this defensive end position and get another position of need. Maybe look at that offensive line, maybe do something else that this Buffalo Bills team needs. Again, wide receivers. There's a lot of wide receivers out there, but there's a lot of wide receivers in the draft as well. And we will talk about that in later episodes of this free agency preview, but in this edition we wanted to break down the defensive end position for you, and I talk about that as probably my number 1 position of need for our Buffalo Bills. So let me go down the list of free agent defensive ends, and you let me know which names interest you. Again, there's a huge list, some players you've heard of, some we've mentioned in this edition of Believers Talk, and some that we just overlooked for the sake of time. Let me know in the comment section who you like, who you would like to go after, and what's the price tag you would put on some of these players. Again, we went over some of what Spot Track has in mind for a guy like a Vic Beasley, for for a guy like Ngakoue, for a guy like Yannick Ngakoue. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Again, I'll go through a list of defensive ends that are available. Again, some of these names you will not know, I don't know, but they are listed as available. So as we start going down the defensive end list, we start with two names that I mentioned previously in this episode. You start with Yannick Ngakoue out of Jacksonville. Again, everyone has to like what Ngakoue can do, right? Get pressure on the quarterback, sustainable pressure on the quarterback. However, I think that sweepstakes is going to keep rising, right? There's going to be a bidding war for Ngakoue, for his services, if he's not franchise tagged. Remember, the Jacksonville Jaguars still could franchise tag him, and then he's not available to anybody. But if he's not franchise tagged, I expect a bidding war to go on for Ngakoue. A lot of teams will be interested, a lot of teams with some decent salary cap numbers. I know the Bills are 4th in salary cap currently, but that doesn't mean some team isn't willing to overpay for defensive end. And I just don't think Brandon Beane's willing to do that, and I'm okay with that. Again, Brandon Beane has shown time and time again he's willing to set a price for a player and not go above that price. So although I would love to see Ngakoue in the Buffalo Bills blue and red, I just don't see that happening next season. Then you go on this list, you have Jadeveon Clowney. Like we talked about earlier, Jadeveon Clowney wants market value according to Spot Track is $20 million a year. Just don't think he's worth that much money. We've seen highs and lows with Jadeveon Clowney, including injuries when he was with Houston. So is that a gamble you're willing to take for $20 million a season? I personally don't see it. I don't think so. So I would look past a Jadeveon Clowney. You look at Everson Griffin from the Minnesota Vikings at 32 years old. I think that's an interesting name, someone that you could possibly look out for as well. Ndamukong Suh, again, a name that I want to avoid as far as defensive ends are concerned. A name that's very interesting to me that I did not bring up is Derek Wolfe of the Denver Broncos. Remember, Derek Wolfe was part of that big, that really good defense for the Denver Broncos a few years back. Now that he's getting a little bit older, Denver Broncos are going to let him go. Derek Wolfe is that guy that we look at and say, hey, maybe he's worth bringing in. Again, guy 30 years old, so you know he's in the second half of his NFL career, but still has some good years left. Absolutely has some good years left. So do you bring him in? You bring in a rookie and say, hey, learn under this guy. Maybe bring him a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round type guy. Or maybe even a guy that you don't mind sitting on the practice squad for a season or two and learning from a Derek Wolfe. Ezekiel Ansah, we talked about him last season coming in as a free agent and if we want him or not. He's a little injury prone for my tasting, but I wouldn't have been upset last year if we got him in free agency. Don't think I'd be that upset this year. Did not do a lot for Seattle this season, but if he can continue to stay healthy, who knows what he could do in a Leslie Frazier type scheme. Again, you look at a guy like Shaq Lawson, I think a lot of his success had to do with scheme more than player talent. Maybe this is the type of guy you can plug in pretty cheaply and get some good use out of him. Jabal Sheard, Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett's been around for a long time, 34 years old now with Dallas. Not sure if he looks to continue his NFL career, and if he does, not sure if he wants to come to Buffalo. Not a guy that I would be interested in. We've seen Michael Bennett get into a lot of trouble on the field, have some locker room issues. Some people question that. Not something that fits the culture of Coach McDermott or the Buffalo Bills at this time. Talked about Gerald McCoy, Robert Quinn, Leonard Williams, Vic Beasley. Vic Beasley is my big name on this list. That's the guy that I would look at, again, looking at about $8 million a year according to Spot Track's market value, so definitely in our price range. A guy who's been around for a long time, seems like he's older than he actually is. Jason Pierre-Paul, 31 years old, was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season, still shown at times that he can get the job done. Again, Jason Pierre-Paul, that type of guy we can bring in for a cheaper price tag and say, hey, lead this young core. We get another young rookie defensive end in there and say, hey, show these guys what it takes to be successful in the NFL and give us the best you have with what you have left. Shaq Lawson, we talked about him. I don't think the Buffalo Bills are going to resign Shaq Lawson. Again, let me know in the comment section if you disagree, but I just don't see Shaq Lawson as a Buffalo Bill next season. Eric Armstead, San Francisco 49ers, another big name. A lot of interest around Eric Armstead. said, but I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers picked up his 5th-year option, so he's not an available outlet. So he's not somewhere where he can go. I'm pretty sure San Fran picked up his 5th-year option, so he's actually not a free agent, even though this lists him as one. Quentin Jefferson of Seattle, Adrian Claiborne. Now we're getting into some of the guys that you're not sure of, that I've never heard of. Rodney Gunter, and the list goes on and on. So guys, let me know in the comment section if there's a name that I didn't mention that you like that is a current free agent or is going to be a free agent at the start of the 2020 season. Again, guys, like this video, let me know what you think, and let me know where you think defensive end ranks as far as you guys are concerned, as far as the needs for our Buffalo Bills. Again, guys, I will be doing a breakdown for every single position of need for the Buffalo Bills, and although you might disagree with where I have those positions of need, follow along and let me know what you think of the players when we get to those videos. Again, I'll have another video out on free agency early next week as free agency looks to start March 18th, so less than a month away, guys. I look forward to bringing it all to you right here. Again, last offseason, we broke down every single free agent draft pick by the Buffalo Bills. Plan to do the same thing this year, and I look forward to having you guys join me and join the conversation. Let me know what you guys think about the Buffalo Bills and what you think they're going to do in free agency. Again, I thank you guys for joining me. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and please comment and let me know what you think. I'll look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.